So, first of all, Peter, would you like to introduce yourself and your role to any fans who may not know your role or your multiple roles, I guess?
Yeah, well, hockey's a pretty small community, so we wear many hats, and I'm the only one without a hat tonight. So the hat I'm here wearing tonight is that of chairman of the league, and as you know, that I took over as chair about 2.5 years ago, and I also am the team governor with the Melbourne Ice. So I do wear two hats, but we're here to talk about league opportunities and challenges, etc. So tonight I'll do my best not to talk about the ice and address any good questions around the league and hopefully lift the covers a bit.
But PJ, you must be pretty happy with how the Ice are going this season, though.
I can't stop smiling at the moment. I'd like to think it's all part of the master plan, but I'll leave that one over to Kerry. Yeah, it's a nice position to be in.
How was the from the AI perspective, PJ, when this 2024 season was approaching? I'd said it a few times on our podcast and spoken to GG. It just felt like it was going to be a big season for the AI. I don't know why, off the back of COVID and getting back in the groove, I suppose, has it sort of lived up to where the AI sort of seen the season? Because I think it's been quite a big success so far.
Yeah, look, if you look at the numbers around the league, sort of midpoint, you'd have to say, like visitations probably up, 20% around the league, which we're really happy about. Subscribers are well up on the streams. We're covering 155 games this year, so it's a fairly big ask. But the really encouraging thing is, I think across our teams, we've got about 320 registered players now. And if you think about it, there's probably 250 to 260 Australian players in there. So when you say it's big for opportunity for Aussie players as well, and that's really encouraging for me and a lot of the team owners. Look, I don't have stats at the moment, but I'd also say we've got a record number of players under 21 across the country as well. So I do admit the 250, 260 does include, expats that have come to Australia to play hockey for a couple of seasons and loved it so much they just stay here. So, but that's, if you look at that, there's probably, 4 or 5 in each team. So we're still bringing, over 200 players easily through the Australian ranks into hockey, which is really great.
So we've just got some comments. Just to shout out Eric Brook saying hello. Tori Diver, who I met on the weekend and was great as well. Andrew John Egan, good evening. Hi, Jessica Calder, Paul Finesse as well from Canberra. Hello to you. Tori Diver, GG, SO, Sean O'Connor, Doogie, and the legendary PJ. Yes. Jeffrey Allen Roth, howdy, Peter. See you at the finals. Some love from Eric Brook, HHA, doing a great job covering many stories around the league with a small crew, and some stats from Ben Armstrong. 96% attendance every weekend across all games. That's phenomenal. That's a phenomenal stat from Ben Armstrong there. And I know, watching the games at Macquarie, the places has often been packed. And we've got a big derby game as well coming up this Friday, which we'll see another big crowd as well, which is good to see. If you do have a comment or a question for PJ, please drop it in the comments as well. Here's one from Eric. What are we doing about sponsorships to help with costs of flying teams around the country, accommodation, ground transport, etc.? Needless to say, it is expensive for the teams. Is that something that's handled at a league level, or is that kind of an individual kind of team level, or a bit of both?
Yeah, look, the way the league's structured is most of the sponsorship goes straight to the teams. So teams do the footwork to to attract partners and sponsors, and the league we don't take any income from the teams really. I mean, they just pay a small administration fee every year really to help us keep the doors open, but the rest of it, and then we have to go out and find our own sponsors too at the league level, just to help us as well, like every year, like for the finals we definitely do. And now we're under more pressure with the streaming platform as well. So what we try to do is normalize expenditure for the team, so that we try to do whatever we can at the central level to make it easier on the teams. So we have, a little equalisation fund, because, you look at Perth, they don't have the opportunity of a derby, and they've got to fly literally every week. And being on the other end, and I promised I wouldn't talk about the Melbourne Ice, but when you're flying to Perth, it's an expensive weekend, as everyone knows. So, and they get
I'm
it.
sure Adelaide has the same sort of issues.
Yeah, and Brisbane too, to perhaps a slightly different degree too. Yeah.
We do have a question here. It's probably a hot button topic at the moment, just with the, and I'm not sure if you're able to answer this if a decision has been made. Just a question from Jeffrey Allen Roth on the finals fixtures. Is it top team from each conference having a bye, then second in one division playing third in another division, then the semis? Can you provide any info on how that will work?
Yeah. So every year, around about this time, we actually plan the finals for the following year. So because the most difficult thing in the country, and everyone knows, is ice time, making sure that we're able to get ice time where we need it and when we need it at the right price for our teams. So we try to be 18 months ahead of the schedule, if you like. So the decisions that we're taking this year, we've sort of made, towards the end last year. So for the finals, the way it's going to work is the top two teams in each conference go straight into the Saturday. So if you're on top of those at the conference level, you'll go straight into the Saturday. The Friday is second and third playing third and second, basically, in the other conference. So and we call that the preliminary round. And then on the Saturday, the winner of those goes in against the top of each of the conferences. And each year we have a little talk with the team governors. The team governors basically agree on the rules for the league. So last year, as you may or may not know, the Melbourne Ice would have made it into the finals if we went on the top six teams. But we were, fourth in the third division. So I thought it was an opportune time to call a vote with the governors to see whether we go top three in each division or we go with the best six. And I got completely outvoted, and it was unanimously agreed for hockey that it's better to have the top three of each division going into the finals. And the governors make that decision. So, and it will be the same for next year as well. So we've already agreed on the format for next year.
Can I just confirm, PJ, will that be on the Friday games? Is that second and Hellier playing third in Rurak and
Correct.
Vice versa?
Yep. Yeah.
And then how is the seeding decided from that point onwards?
We basically flip a coin.
Okay.
So we do a draw on the 30th of June, and it's done by one of the independent directors. So it'll be probably, Bob Turner or someone like that will flip a coin to see who plays first and who plays who. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And I think that answers Tori's question as well. Will there be cross-conference games on the final weekend? Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, this is great. This is like one of the big things from the fans' point of view. They really wanted to find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kerry Goulet, who I just my phone was ringing just 2 minutes ago, as noticed that we're all on the show. Yes, in the semi, coin toss. Yes, so that should be that. If we could live stream that coin toss, that would be amazing. Just a 2 minute live stream. That would be phenomenal.
It'll be about 8 seconds long.
Yeah. No, we'll get some sponsors on PJ and we can draw it out, and it'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doogie, do you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, one of the big things I wanted to ask you, PJ, and it's been a hot topic recently, especially in AI fans. And Tristan on our website released an article today just regarding goaltenders. I don't know if you've got a comment at all about where the AI sees goaltenders and import rules and things like that. Is that something that the AI looks at in terms of local goaltender talent, or does the AI? So from my point of view, I see the AI as not as a developmental league. I see it as the pinnacle league in this country. I just want to know if you can give a talk about it from an AI level, if that's something that the AI actually looks at in terms of the import local goaltender type situation.
Well, I think there's sort of two questions in that one, Andrew. The first one is, you're right. Our relationship with the federation is that, we're really an entertainment elite product, etc. And development is really looked after by Ice Hockey Australia through the member states, etc. But it's a bit of a cop-out, really, like in saying that. I mean, I think we all have obligations to grow the game. And my feel is that, we as, I wear my governor's hat at the moment, we attract more kids to our games than any other platform around the country, and we have an obligation to make it known to those kids that there are things to do and pathways to join, etc., etc. So that's sort of high on our agenda, and that includes not just skaters but also goaltenders as well. So you've got to then make sure the pathways are defined for those guys so that they can actually end up in elite hockey. And I think I read the comments. Was it your article, Sean, about the comment about the goalies, etc.? I mean, you're spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, someone else in the groups, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely spot on. If we just all try to outdo each other with import goalies every year, we kill that pathway, a part of that pathway. So, yeah, I think at the governor's meeting at the finals this year, we'll be looking at how we can adjust some of our infrastructure and rules to accommodate that without we won't be saying you can't have import goalies, but what we can do is make it very attractive to use local goalies at certain times throughout the year. Yeah. I think it's an obligation we have to do.
Must admit, I think a lot of teams actually take it upon themselves as well, and they often use those import goaltenders that they do bring over to teach their younger locals and to really develop them even further. I just look at the Ice Dogs this season, for instance. They're working with a tandem, and Newcastle as well.
Yeah, I'm really, really impressed with what Gary's doing with the new Japanese goalie up there and making it very accessible for him to help the youth and not just the youth, but also some of those B League players that just don't get that attention as a goalkeeper. It's got to be the worst job in hockey, hasn't
it? Yeah.
We do have a question, and it's come up a little bit before. Just a question around from Tory Diver again on how were the conferences originally decided. So I guess was it a costing issue, like a way to keep rivals in conferences? How did it come about, I guess?
Yeah, a little bit. You're a little bit right there, because one of our obligations is we try to normalize. Not normalize, but we try to make travel and accommodation as fair and equitable right across the league. As you know, in New South Wales, half their games they can just jump in the car and they're off. And then you've got Andrew and Stan in Perth having to fly to every single away game. So we try to come up with the most equitable pattern, if you like, a bit of an algorithm, really. And we did it to withstand time. And we know over time that that teams will be strong and teams will be, maybe some teams won't be so strong. And the structure of the league might move. And you've seen that this year, with a couple of teams that would normally be at the top aren't, and a couple of teams that are in been in the bottom three for the last 5 years are not. So that will happen from time to time, and it's not unusual right across sports for that to happen. But we're staying, we're staying pretty much with the conferences as they're set at the moment, because it does work for us in this pattern that we've got to play 15 home, 15 away games in the year, which is where we're settling at the moment, and certainly be the same for next year.
No, thank you. That's helpful. We do have another question. This is the ultimate what if resources were abundant. What would be the first change you'd make to the league? From Andrew John Egan.
Bloody Andrew, huh? Good question. It's a very good question. Look, I think I'm going to go back to Ben's stat before. 95, 96% capacity on a week-by-week basis. And that includes, Perth hasn't had an empty seat for a long time. Gary at Newcastle hasn't had an empty seat for a long time. And then, around the league, we might be struggling, but my biggest objective really is to see us move into professional stadiums. And there's no disrespect to public ice skating rinks or our current stadiums or whatever, but we have to fight pretty much around the countryside like everybody else for ice time. And ice time's not cheap, but it's just going to get more expensive. But I would say, Andrew, if I had buckets and buckets of cash to put around, I'd be looking at how we could make it viable to repurpose empty stadiums that are around the country. And we know some of the best stadiums around the country are empty 90% of the year, to put a sheet of ice in and play an AIHL season, and maybe, have a capacity to play basketball in there at the same time, like they do in the US with the multi-purpose ones. I mean, that would be my, I'd just love to see 5,000 or 10,000 people at AI game. And I think if we had the capacity to do it, we would fill it.
PJ, just an extension of that question from Andrew. Has there been any thought, because I know this is something that I've spoken to fans around the rink about, has there ever been a thought from AI at maybe looking just for finals of potentially having somewhere like High Sense and going big, just having that big dream of a finals weekend at somewhere like High Sense Arena or John Cain Arena, whatever it's called these days?
Yeah. We might have to start with Margaret Court, but absolutely. And I think that would be the logical stepping stone to what I'm talking about. And, God bless the NHL for coming out last year, and I heard they're going to be coming out again next year, which is showing us that people will go to hockey, and it is interesting because, I've been I was out of hockey for 30 years, and the turning point for me was when I went to Kerry's Hockey Classic at Rod Laver Arena, and, and I realised then that, I don't know how many people he had, but at least 12,000 that they got to those games at that stage. And there's definitely an appetite for entertainment at that level. It's a little bit scary for some of our teams because, when you're talking about going to High Sense, you don't need 2 security guards, you need 20, and all that sort of thing. But, I just feel we have to be bold. And in my tenure, I'd love to see even a couple of exhibition games at that level. I think would surprise everybody and do it really well.
Yeah, I think finals is a great suggestion from Doogie as well, because it's already got that kind of festival atmosphere to it, because you've got a whole bunch of teams coming together, lots of fan bases. It just has such a great feel to it, and to be able to make that even bigger would be amazing.
Yep. And I think everybody in the country would like to see a longer finals platform as well. I mean, if we could wield that in together and make it work, I think that's a worthwhile endeavor.
I've got lots of formats, PJ.
Yeah, well, I get about 20 a week sent to my email, so some with videos, some without.
Is a question from Jeffrey Allen Roth. Any expansion teams on the horizon?
Yeah, we get asked a lot, and we've got you know, at any time, we've probably got 3 or 4 applications coming in for expansion teams. And this is, you know, a hot topic everywhere at the moment. And I can't, we haven't made any definitive plans at the moment, but we absolutely want to move into new markets. So I don't want to say too much about it, but you know, we don't want to just dilute our existing teams. That's the last thing we want to do. In saying that, though, you know, one of the things that really attracted me to me getting involved with the Ice was the derby with the Mustangs, and having a derby is such a powerful tool for both teams. You know, in a year they're doing well, it's good for them. In a year we're doing well, it's good for us. But fundamentally, it's a wonderful dynamic in the city to have a derby, and you're probably seeing that up in Sydney now. You know, we're a small community, so we have to work with Mustangs on things like exhibition games and stuff like that. When we walk in the rink, we all hate each other, which is great. You know, that's it. But the hubbies are so strong. So there's a argument there about, you know, looking at some of those regions eventually to also, particularly the ones that have got the higher travel costs. So if you look at Brisbane, could it have 2 teams in the future? Probably. Could Perth? Probably.
Even
you know,
Adelaide. I mean, there's potential to have multiple rinks in Adelaide, so that opens that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Adelaide's got a very strong development platform as well. You know, they develop a lot of players, and to keep them there, keep them attracted there, I think that's really plus. But there is part of another strategy with that, and that is you know, Australia does only have 20. What are we up to? 25, 26 million people. We're surrounded by big countries in the Asia Pacific region as well, and that's got to be a part of what we think about in the future to get into new markets. And look, this year, I mean, we've probably got 8 Japanese players around the league, and already Japanese eyes are on the stream. You know, people are talking about Japanese sponsors, all that sort of thing. Korea's big, you know, et cetera. So that's also, for me, that's got to be part of our future. I can't show you it on a map yet or how it's going to work, but definitely, you know, having some representation from across the ditch, definitely looking at what other sports have done. And you know, we have a new director came aboard at the end of last year, Bob Turner, and Bob actually put a basketball team into Singapore for, I think it was 5 years they ran there. That's the sort of, you know, opening up of new markets that I think we've got to be looking at, because it's such a microcosm of sport. You know, we need big numbers to look at our product, and you know, that probably is a good lead into streaming and TV. Is we've also got to be a lot more professional about you know, how we build out those platforms and make them more accessible to not only people in Australia but people in that sort of region that we do represent.
And it is a really interesting point, because I look at the Australian Baseball League. They also did this as well. They had connections to Korea, to Japan, and then they had various other Asian connections, which was great, I thought, for the actual league and the exposure of that league. And you also just look at the Asia League in ice hockey. It's been very successful in being in multiple nations.
Yep. Well, it's interesting at the moment, you know, without a lot of planning that way. I mean, we are the biggest league in Asia Pacific already, by players, by revenue, etc. And as has been exhibited this year with just some of the Japanese players that have come on board, and I think we've got a Korean player too this year in the league, is they come with quite a different mindset. They come with a mindset of thanks for the opportunity, you know, and a mindset of really, you know, helping them, if you like, move up their own little journey through hockey and potentially get into Europe and Canada and US as well. But yeah, I mean, everyone at the league level knows that's a hot topic for me, is how we open ourselves up to perhaps some of those communities. You know, at the moment we're getting, I don't know, 40 or 50 Japanese people coming to every game. I'd why can't it be 200? And then why can't we do the same with the Korean community, the Chinese community, etc. as well?
Yeah, and even the Ice Dogs brought over the first Filipino player this year.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, and we actually got mentions that whole transfer got mentions on their major news publication within the Philippines.
Yeah.
I mean that's huge exposure for the league.
Yeah.
To a very large country.
Yeah.
Relative.
Yeah.
We might have time just for one or two quick questions, if that's okay, PJ.
Yeah, sure.
It might. Here's a question. Just wondering about the streaming service being paid for by the teams rather than the league. Do you have comments on that, or is there a plan to transition that in the future? Or
yeah, it's a really good question. And as you know, I think that ICE was maybe the first or the second team to stream, and have been doing for many years, etc. It was part of the plan that we enacted about 18 months ago, was that within 2 or 3 years we'd cover all the streaming costs. I think at the moment we're up to about 2/3 this year, maybe a bit more. So we do rebate the teams every year for the streaming. At the moment, just because of the sheer dynamics of our league and the different types of stadiums, all those production companies really are the partnerships with the individual teams. So, and they've been with them for quite a few years. So, our goal is to kind of make all that look and feel the same for AIHL TV. So it's you should be looking at the same thing in the same commentary style, etc., etc. So that's currently what we're doing. But I would say one more year, and we will have driven our subscription base to a point where we can cover the full cost. It's still, 155 games is still expensive at whatever it is per game. It's and so it started that teams like us had to pay for everything, and then that ended up on Foxtel, I think, at the time, Game of the Week. But this year I think we're well over 2/3, and might only be one more year, and we'll be able to cover the full thing.
And a final question, because I'm aware of time, from Karl Heinzer. Is there a plan to introduce a referee import program? There's a lot of referees sitting idle in the Northern Hemisphere this time of year.
Now, who the hell is Karl Heinzer? He must be from Germany, I think. So, is there a plan to look at referees? I'd rather open it up a bit more and say there is definitely a plan to help with referee development. And one of the things, I mean, why anyone would be a referee in our sport, I never know. But we've all got different views about different referees at different points in time, etc., etc. We use about 80 referees now across the country. So referees and linespeople. And I don't know the number, but I would say every year there's about 10% attrition. So we have 10% new ones or promoted or whatever, and 10% drop out, etc. Up until now, we pretty much just commission referees to come across from Ice Hockey Australia, and then we use those referees. It's a little bit like what we were talking about with development before, though. We have an obligation to keep improving and developing as our game improves, and the answer is yes. There is plans, but this is a really good example where the league would probably have to cover some of that cost, but we'd also have to get agreement with our governors, the people we work for, that they would also jump in and do that, because I don't know what it would cost to bring a referee out from Sweden or Canada for a year, but I'm assuming it's a decent chunk of money.
Yeah, maybe we could cut the cost and have an import player ref, just to see if that would work. No, but thank you so much for coming on and joining us. Sorry we went a little bit over, but really appreciate you answering some questions. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Anytime. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, thanks for coming on,
Good
PJ.
to you.
Thanks so much, PJ.
Thanks, guys.